Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Regan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in. Welcome to Everyday Practices Dental Podcast. I am your host, Regan Robertson, here with the loyal, faithful, and strong co-host of mine, Dr. Chad Johnson. How are you today, Chad?
And look at these muscles and look at these teeth. Both are strong. I'm doing great, Regan. How are your teeth and muscles?
My teeth and muscles are fantastic. I've been taking my supplements. I've been walking my dog. I've been eating all the right things.
Fantastic.
Well, we are into episode 3 of our 3-part series regarding cybersecurity, dental practices, and everything you need to know in between. The last 2 episodes, we talked about how to apply, what to know, how to apply it in independent dental practices, and why independent dental practices are at just as much risk as DSOs are. So this week, after you've learned the theory and everything that is out there, we're going to dive into what you can do now with getting your own dental team up to speed. So it's not all on you, dentist. You are responsible for the practice, but you are not responsible for doing the doing of everything. So we're going to talk about getting your team up to speed about what the dangers are out there so you can protect your practice from the number one cybersecurity risk, which is people. It's the people.
Freaking people.
I know, it's the people. So we welcome back Adrian Santangelo, Chief Forensics Officer for SciEmptive, and Robert Niles, who is PDA's own Information Security Officer. My right hand, my left hand, I will do whatever he says hand. Robert brings 28 years of Linux Unix systems administration experience, 4 years of HIPAA compliance, and 3 years as a certified information systems security professional. Robert, you are on a never-ending quest, I believe, to protect others from the quote-unquote baddies. And I've seen you be so passionate about all things compliance, protection, and client education. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If Adrian didn't answer this enough, why is cybersecurity so important?
Well, the biggest reason is, let all the baddies in, right? Roughly 9% of the breaches out there are due to human error. And training kind of reduces that error a bit.
Did you say 90?
So 90% of the breaches are due to human error. Yeah, that's a lot. And not all of them are, somebody at the front desk clicking on the bad link, but yeah, human error. That's a huge factor in cybersecurity. And without that training, you increase your risk, right?
Isn't that a mind-blowing stat, Chad?
I was like, did he say 9 or 90? So that's why I wanted to exactly. I just wanted to clarify for the listeners that if they did a what, that's
a 9 and a 0. So, I think Verizon came in and saying something like 82%, and IBM came in saying about 95%. So the average, 90%.
Fair enough.
Adrian's nodding. So this is across any industry, not just dentistry.
Oh yeah,
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And I think in the previous weeks you talked about that before, but the costs of not doing cybersecurity training, having a breach, that's huge. It's like I forget who it was, but they said the average cost of a data breach in 2022, just last year, was over $4 million.
Oh.
And that's the cost to investigate, which means that you're probably going to have to hire Adrian or some company to come in and figure out what went wrong. There's the cost to recover, the cost from loss of business. Last week, Chad was talking about his business going down due to a mean old electrical strike coming and hitting your servers and stuff like that. Then there's the cost to your reputation of brand. If you're breached, you get to be put on OCR's page, the breach list. So yeah, and
Wait,
What's that?
Reputations.
What's
What are you?
that?
Yeah. Wait, what?
So HHS has what the OCR breach list. So whenever a company is breached, they have so many days, 60 days, before, if it's 500 more people, they have to notify HHS. And when you notify HHS, you're put up on this breach list. And that's for the whole world to see. At one point, some people were calling it the wall of shame. No, I
Right.
don't like to take it that way, but yeah, everybody out there gets to know you did something bad, and media picks up on that. Well, besides the
So-
fact that if you're
Yes.
breached 500 people, you have to report it to the media too.
So if Aspen Indeed, they called it a breach, but they have said nothing yet. If it actually did hit patient records, if they were able to take patient records, they would be required to alert the media within 60 days.
Alert the media, alert HHS, and that's from the point of discovery and if it covers protected healthcare information. But yeah, if they can do it quicker, they have to do it quicker, but they have at least 60 days.
Chad, do you have cybersecurity training annually with your team?
I guess this would be a good question to like ask Robert, what does that involve? Because that would be my first question to know. And I'll bet my answer is no, but I mean, again, I can't keep track of everything that we do, you know, but Robert knows very well that I have an email queued in my Gmail box that he's not disclosing, but I'm sharing for others that I wrote him back the other day and I was like, I know that I'm late on getting this done. I'll get her. But my first reminder was when I was hiking in Utah with the family. And so I was like, I just kept it in my inbox 0 queue. And yeah, I have yet to
Context for the listeners. What are you talking about, Chad?
What's that?
What are you talking about? I don't even, you
His
referenced it in email.
cybersecurity
Oh.
training.
So
Oh, your own cybersecurity training. I see. Okay.
for Productive Dentist Academy.
I see.
He's
Okay.
part of us, so yeah.
Yes,
he
so-
gets added to my list.
Yep. So I wrote Robert back and I said, I'm just being accountable. I'm getting around to it. I do see your emails. I've just have yet to complete it. So yeah.
Yeah. I think HIPAA requires cybersecurity training. That's part of your risk management process, right? And you're required to cover the privacy rule, the security rule, the breach rule. And those things encompass various things like what is electronic personal health information? What is EPHI? And those are those 18 personal identifiers. And that 18 is really catchy because that 18, that last one there says something like anything else that can personally identify somebody. So
I remember that. And that was,
really,
I was like, that's not helpful.
it's just infinite. So,
Yeah.
if you could take a picture of my tooth and that identifies me, when you take that 18 plus bits of information, that personal identifiable information, and stick it with training, or if you treatment, payment, and healthcare operations, TPO, then now that's covered under HIPAA, and it has to be protected. Other things are like what privacy protections does the patient have the rights to? Like I think last year, 2022, there was a dental office that got fined. It was a considerable amount. I'm thinking $80,000 or something like that, solely because they didn't respond to a patient's request for their healthcare records in a timely manner. So that's another right and protection that you have under HIPAA. And HIPAA also requires you to talk about cybersecurity awareness and training and things like social engineering, email attachments, password hygiene, dangers from visiting websites, mobile devices, especially theft and loss. You will be surprised on how many incidents cover mobile devices that were left somewhere, stolen, removed from somebody's car. There's personal health information on there, and nobody even bothered to put a PIN to access that. And even if you did, the data wasn't encrypted, so that one way, if I want to get information out of a laptop, for example, and there's a pin on there, is I'm just going to pull the hard drive out and stick it in my machine. And if that drive isn't encrypted, I have access to everything that was on that hard drive.
Oh my gosh, all the things I do not think about at all. I wouldn't even think about that.
Yeah. There's other things like what to do in case of a breach. You have to, like what we talked about recently, is that you have to report that. If it's less than 500, you still have to report that to your clients. You have to send them out a mail or email notification if they approve that, and let them know that a breach existed. If it's 500 or more, you have to let HHS know. You probably have to let the media know. And your state may even have more requirements than that. They may be stricter than HIPAA. But HIPAA isn't the only thing there. There's PCI DSS. You're required to, if you take credit cards, you're required to have cybersecurity training there as well, or they can take away your ability to process credit cards. Then you're going back to accepting cash and checks. But back to HIPAA, we talked about the breach and all that stuff. You definitely want to be prepared for when something like that happens, and have a plan in place for when something like that happens, so you're just not sideblinded when you find out that you have these reporting requirements, for example. I think the last two things are, one, you have to have a privacy and security officer for each organization, right? So somebody there who's trained in all this needs to be a part of your organization, and everybody needs to know who this person is. So when there's a breach, or when there's a problem, or when there's a question, they have somebody that they can go to. And that's very important. I think the last little bit is that there's fines for the HIPAA violations, for these HIPAA violations. And they can exceed close to $70,000 per violation. And that means, like, if that laptop lost or stolen from the car is an example, if you had 1,000 patient records, that could be 1,000 violations, plus the violation for having the laptop in your car, the violation for having no password on that laptop. There's a violation for not having that data encrypted. Or if you don't have training, which is the subject here, you can also get dinged for that as well.
So you talked about having a plan, having a team plan. What does that look like for dental teams?
You want somebody who's the PR person. You want somebody who knows how to talk to the media. You want somebody who knows what the reporting requirements are. And you want those people who know who to contact if there's a breach. Somebody who knows who to contact to find out what happened, what we do to recover from this, what to do to recover from a breach, and that sort of thing.
Oh, do you have any recommendations for programs or software or training that can help get teams up to speed quickly? I know Adrian mentioned a few an episode or so ago.
Oh, and those are fantastic. KnowBe4 is a fantastic program. They have, they're decently priced. They have lots of interactive training modules. They have the ability to set up a phishing campaign and have that automated.
Phishing for everybody, so you know.
Phishing, smishing, whaling.
Less exciting.
Right, smishing was a new one. Smishing, I didn't know smishing.
What?
What is that one? That's phishing via text, right?
Probably SMS, so
messaging.
smishing.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes
Oh,
sense.
geez. I thought you were just like fish smish.
We've had incidences like that where we've seen an employee all of a sudden receive a message from somebody in leadership saying, "Hey, I'm in a meeting right now. Can you go out and do a favor for me?" And the person is like, yeah, sure. What do you need? And they're saying, can you go buy a bunch of gift cards for everybody at the meeting? And they're like, okay. Luckily, they listen to their instincts and stop things right there. But yeah, those type of things happen. Mimecast, I think, is another one that I look at. I like their stuff. It's a little bit more impersonal, a little bit more funny, but the training still gets across, the idea still gets across. And it's not Minecraft, it's Mimecast. Yeah, I would recommend them. Both of these groups have various levels that can also include HIPAA and PCI DSS compliance as well.
Team might hate training. They might roll their eyes at it, but every team can happily get on board with a mission. And so team members, think of your favorite patient and what would happen if that patient's information got into the wrong hands. I think that definitely is an enticement, if you will, to just make sure that we're all being really smart about how we handle security and take the extra effort to maybe turn our passwords into a sentence and not our favorite pet's name and birthday.
Yes. Don't have word, number, punctuation. That is literally one of the processes that is first tried in terms of breaking a password.
Yeah.
Words,
Yeah.
numbers, and punctuation following it. It's very common.
So what are some of the, you mentioned the gift cards as being one of the things that that you've seen. I definitely know the smishing is high for me. What are some of the sneaky things that the baddies are doing right now from your perspective, Robert, that that you think dental practitioners should be training for right now?
Well, last week or two that you talked about open source intelligence, and we've seen those things where you post information on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or whatnot, and the baddies are scraping that information up and trying to use it against you. One of the newer ones that I'm seeing that was surprising to me is LinkedIn. We had a new employee, and all of a sudden that new employee, they're getting smishing. So that's phishing via text, right? SMS messages. And all of a sudden, within a day or two of being hired, they're getting something from the CEO saying, hey, that was this example here. You know, I'm in a meeting right now. Can you do something for me? And that person is so new, and there's that appeal to authority, right?
Yeah.
There's that appeal to want to please. They're like, yeah, sure. And like that raised some questions with me. It's like, okay, this is a brand new person. How does this brand new person get a text from a CEO with that person's, you know, the CEO's name and whatnot, signing that request already? I mean, that's really super fast. So I was talking to a bunch of other cybersecurity persons, and they're saying, LinkedIn, LinkedIn, LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, maybe
No way.
LinkedIn.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, there's a new job posting. I just started my, you know, this job, you know, with so and so, or you know, I've just changed positions with my employer in so and so, and you know, that's automatic. And I'm like, well, how did they get their cell phone number to send the text? And they said, yeah, you just find the name and the location of this person. You could do a quick look, and you can most of the time you can get their phone number. And so I tried this out. So I went online to LinkedIn and I searched for this person's name, and lo and behold, there's their cell phone number and address and tons of other personal information.
Not me Googling myself right now.
So back to Adrian's point on previous episodes, do you think that there are bot accounts on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I would say that's quite possible. It could be humans too, but yes.
My assumption is any place that there's a portal for any sort of texting of any kind, there is a bot that exists somewhere.
If money can be made off of it, there should be a bot somewhere. Yes.
Right.
Adrian, when
the
you get those
underline,
bot,
yes, money. It's about money.
Yep.
Follow the money.
Adrian, when you get those bot smishing, fishing, whatever. Do you ever toy with them for fun?
Oh God, yes, all the time. It helps pass the time away. And also, if I'm interacting with them, they're not interacting with someone they can take advantage of. So
Right. Huh.
See what I mean? Doing the Lord's work right there.
sure, we'll say it's for everybody else. Nothing to do with me having fun with them.
Right.
I've messed around with someone where they wrote on Facebook, I could tell that it was someone, fishing. They were just like, did you hear about Justin? And I was like, well, yeah, we talked about him at his funeral yesterday. And, and then they respond, yeah, I was hoping that you could contact him. And I'm like, well, how are we going to do that when we were at his funeral yesterday? Just like really, I try and just cut to like this, disastrous thing where like, if they weren't playing along with me playing along, that it's just like, so I'll say, they'll say, well, yeah, but, I was hoping to get his credit card information. I'm like, well, we were going to meet at dinner in a half an hour. Why don't you ask for it then? And they just don't know what to do with that, because then I'm getting
I'm on the phone. I can't tell you right now. I have to do it now. I'm like, yeah.
Right.
Every time,
So, yeah. Huh.
Those social media, that open source stuff, that's pretty big. And it's amazing the information that people will put on their Facebook and Twitter and TikTok accounts right now, right?
Yeah.
And you guys talked about deep fakes too. This reminds me, though, talking about the deep fakes and the LLMs, with an employee here recently got scammed because like a nephew that they hadn't talked to for quite a long time texted and said, I'm in trouble. I need some help. Can you send me some money? And unfortunately, they fell for it. But can you imagine this whole dynamic changes now, and that you get a voice call from your daughter or mother or mother-in-law asking for money or asking for help, and it's not them, it's this AI, the LLMs. The whole thing is going to change in the future as far as that's concerned. Yeah.
So let me talk about passwords real quick. What do you think? Do you think having my password be password 12 or password 123? Like, which would be better, Robert? Like, as far I'm just playing around. What makes for a good password? I'm just trying to get your blood boiling.
Well, passwords are important. I'm still seeing, I think, what do we call that? Challenges with people with passwords. I don't want to give half the passwords away, but dentist 123 really is not a good password. And unfortunately, I've seen that.
Can't be. That cannot be. People do not do dentist 123.
Oh boy, I have a story.
I wish I could say otherwise.
For real?
Yeah.
What's funny is that more than one person's thought of that. Like, well, I'll just capitalize it. DDS 123 exclamation mark.
At first, I thought it was just human behavior, right? But I think there's this issue where we've been trained throughout the years to progressively change these passwords. Like, let's say his first password was dentist. And then 1 year, he had to update his password because now we require a number. So he'll do dentist 1. And then who knows, 2 years later, they want a special character. Well, you know what special character is going to come next, and that's that exclamation point. And so dentist 1, exclamation point. We need more, dentist 123.
Capital dentist.
Yep. To the baddies, those are all the same thing. There's no differentiation between any of those passwords. Those are just part of simple dictionary attacks.
Robert, what upsets me though is there are some governmental passwords that, I'll type in a password. They're like, that one's too long. And I'm like, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
I need to so that's frustrating when, it's working on both ends. You want to make a nice long password. And let's say that you had 15 characters. And then there are some governmental websites that'll be like, no, can't be more than 11. And it's like, what? You guys don't have a program that allows for me to type in more than, it has to be 11. It can't be more. It can't be less. It's just like, this is stupid.
Well, hopefully that's changing because NIST comes out with new recommendations all the time.
I hope
And
so.
yeah, allowing longer passwords, no limit on the password length is really kind of like a suggestion that they have going out right now. And my suggestion is if it's a completely random computer generated password, it should be at least 13 characters. And if it's a human generated password, it should be at least 20 characters. Length is better than complexity to me. So I call it my 1320 rule. And that 20 is not a hard thing. It's just that you can have it be a simple passphrase. And somebody asked me about that earlier today, and I said, yeah, like purple princes make rain. That's what, 24 characters, right? And that's a fantastic password.
Did you say
as long as it
purple
isn't,
princes make rain?
purple rain.
That I know, I
prince,
like it. I
purple
love where
princes
you're
make rain.
going with it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you're reaching.
and it's a whole lot easier to remember, right? Than whatever weird password thing
Right.
you come up
Well,
with.
Adrian, Adrian, you shared in chat. I did not realize that dental123 was the password that you discovered a few years ago and broke the news on a story.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I don't want to mention their name, but if you just Google that password and my name, you'll find it pretty quick. But yeah, that was one of our local dental offices came to us the first time. This was when this dental backup software got compromised. And so that's just unfortunate. And had ransomware pushed out to every one of their clients across the country. And they called us in for help. It was literally 5 minutes from our office. And we've never been to this place before. We were in their office for about 10 to 15 minutes, and we realized what was happening and kind of said, have you talked to them? They go, oh, all the time. Yeah. Okay. Get your backup back. Well, we can't. Like they're not releasing it. I'm like, well, let's get your backup back because it was software recognized. And I used a application called Behind the Asterisk, which literally takes the password displayed on the screen behind the dots and just shows it to you for their backup because no one was given their backup password. And the password was dental123. And so we used that password to log in to the backup place and actually download their information for them because they've been offline now for almost 8 hours when they called us finally. And apparently they had not told anybody else that password was being used. And they said it was secure because you had to know the username. Well, we discovered, again, within the first 15 minutes, the username was just their phone number. So if I was to Google a dental office's phone number and had dental123, I could access every single backup of every single one of their clients from any computer in the world. And this is the kind of stuff that's like, everybody's shaking their head, but it's the daily occurrence to us. Like this is not new. This is something that happens so much. Yeah. So it was, when you said dental123, I started to twitch a little bit because we've been down that road.
Did you know that,
already.
Robert? Did you know that?
No,
Adrian?
I didn't know this one.
And again, the selective, what's the word for it? What's the word for it? When you're selectively outraged about people not brushing their teeth well enough, and then their password is, dental123.
Yeah.
And then someone else listening to this going, well, mine isn't that, it's dentist321. It's just like, well,
exclamation point.
Yeah.
There's patterns that I don't want to share, but I've noticed these patterns that dentists do that if I use any of these patterns, I probably breach, a good 60% of dental offices, their data, their account.
Okay, that's a whole other episode, Robert.
Yeah.
Robert, want to know a fun one that I've done before? So having played the piano before, I've done like a piano song so I don't even know what the letters are, but basically I'm switching up the idea to having it something that's tangible in verbiage, but it's actually just the keystrokes on the piano to a song. We Will Rock You. Sure. Actually, I mean, I'll just share. I haven't used it in a long for Elise.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
But as an example, where, yeah. I
think this underlines that from something as simple as a password to as massive as getting your cybersecurity up to date, getting your policies in place, getting insurance, making sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. It's not as scary as it looks or feels as long as you're mitigating your risk properly and
putting some time into it.
Yes, making sure that you're deliberate about it. Fear diminishes when we reduce the unknown. And Adrian, Santangelo, Robert, Niles, thank you so much for
Yes, guys. Thank you.
helping everybody listening with tips on what they can do to strengthen their own cybersecurity, take a hard look at what they're doing right now with their own policies and procedures, and really doing what it takes to protect their patients and protect their businesses and their livelihoods. So thank you both very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Regan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you know you deserve growth just like everybody else? And that's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now. Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you, and we'd love your help. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.